mid-2018, Manchester Art Gallery made the decision to remove Hylas and the Nymphs, one of my all-time favourite paintings by John William Waterhouse, one of my all-time favourite artists. Their reason? Well, there are beautiful half-naked women in it, of course! Can you imagine the scandal? In the year of our Lord, 2018, breasts have absolutely no place in art. It's sexist and objectifying. From now on, women may only be photographed, painted, or leave the house in collars up to here. Come, sisters, with the progressive guidance of Manchester Art Gallery, we may be liberated from the shackles of ever being seen as pretty enough to paint. Stop the presses! Shut down the magazines! Vogue is cancelled. Have you seen how many attractive women are in Vogue? Let us never again subject ourselves to be looked at or desired by men. We should pass laws where women are not allowed on TV, or to be photographed, or portrayed in any way that may hint at sensuality or desire. In fact, while we're at it, here's a fantastic feminist idea. Why don't we pass mandatory laws where women must cover up any part of us that might be admired or seen as pretty? We could make it a whole head-to-toe thing. What a revolutionary modern concept! Thanks, Manchester Art Gallery. Thankfully, the painting was eventually restored to its rightful place, and it's a little unclear whether they always intended to do that, or whether they did it because the public backlash was so great. There are some quotes I found that seem to suggest they wanted this to be a long-term thing, but it didn't last long. When people started to point out that galleries are supposed to push boundaries, ideas, and culture, their defence was that they did it to start a conversation and get people thinking about the place of women in art. Yes, you see, Manchester Art Gallery were trying this revolutionary new concept where in order to actually encourage more free speech and further the conversation, they're censoring artworks they personally find offensive and removing them from sight so people aren't allowed to analyse the image themselves and come to their own opinions about it. Because telling people what to think while controlling the information they're allowed to access is what artistic freedom and expression is all about. Thanks, Manchester Art Gallery. Some of you will no doubt be wondering why I'm talking about something that happened years ago. And it's because I somehow was actually completely oblivious to this whole scandal until about a month ago when I visited Manchester Art Gallery with a friend of mine. The painting, as I said, was restored to its rightful place on the wall with a small exhibit next to it explaining the controversy. And then I realised I had so much to talk about that I wanted to do a video on it. So here we are, with a background and outfit in homage to the painting. Today I am dressed as Galatea the Nymph. I know it's not entirely accurate. I did consider doing the video essay topless, but then I thought about how much it would upset both Vorsh and Manchester Art Gallery if they got a look at too much of my skin.
She's wearing a fucking skirt with stockings. She just wants to live in Mad Men and be sexually harassed.
So I decided to adhere to their very feminist and progressive standards of modesty. Thanks, Manchester Art Gallery. Now, while this scandal raises important issues of censorship and artistic freedom, important topics both, everything that's needed to be said about those things has been said. Those arguments have been made, and in reference to other things, I've argued in the past why I think censorship and restricting freedom of expression and speech is something I'm opposed to. What I want to focus on in this video is why a beautiful scene like this was censored, whether or not it is actually objectifying women, and if romance is sexist now. So, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Galatea, and this is Acis, my dearly drowned and departed today. And today we will be considering the validity of the much repeated lament. Romance is dead, and feminism killed it. So, just to quickly say, chaps, I do apologise. I know it annoys some of you when I do this, but I have a script. I am unfortunately going to be looking down quite a bit. Normally I have it more to level with me, but I don't actually have a table today. This is on a chair. I mean, obviously not. I mean, where I really am is in a pond, obviously, in Fairyland, of course. So there's nowhere for my laptop to go, and basically, I've been awake for I don't know how many hours, but a day, a night, and a day. Yeah. And all night I was finishing this script really quickly because I've got to get it done because I've got a deadline. basically I've got to get it done. Yeah, so I needed it done, and so I had to really quickly finish the script, so I'm really sleep deprived, and then I needed to film this, and it's now late in the day, I need to finish it today, and it's now late in the evening, and I needed to get it done, and so I didn't have time to properly do the set. I mean, I think I did quite well, considering I kind of threw it together, but no table. Didn't have time to get one, so I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking down, but if that bothers you, you can put up a picture of Hylas and the Nymphs and just listen to my voice. How's that? I'm just a stand-in for them anyway. So, you know, why not have an image of the real thing? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. Hylas. We're dealing with it. It's fine. So for those who are unaware, Waterhouse's painting, Hylas and the Nymphs, depicts a scene where Hylas, if that's how you say his name, who was travelling with Jason and the Argonauts, was sent to get water when their ship reached the shore. The pool that he came across just happened to be filled with many beautiful nymphs who tempted him into the water, and then he disappeared forever. In some stories, they apparently turned him immortal, and so he, quote, shared in their power and love forever, and in other tales, he drowned and probably ended up looking something like this. You see? Look, I've got my skulls from the deep of men that I've drowned in which I'm in a pond. I am in a pond. This is genuine. Are you doubting me? So this could be... And it's not, it's Asus. It's not Hylas, this is Asus. Okay, you can't see him because I don't have a table, so I couldn't put him anywhere. But he's here, don't worry. But yes, so either they tempted him away to live with them forever, or they killed him. Or they tempted him and they killed him. So you know, one could describe these ladies as femme fatales. That would not be exactly an inaccurate description. I'm just going to quote from this article. I'll put everything I quote in the articles at the bottom of the screen, and then I'll link everything as well. Explaining why Hylas and the Nymphs was briefly removed, Claire Gannaway, Manchester Art Gallery's curator of contemporary art, told The Guardian that she objected to the room's title of In Pursuit of Beauty, since it endorses, quote, male artists pursuing women's bodies and paintings that presented the female body as a passive decorative art form or a femme fatale. Gannaway added that the #MeToo and Time's Up movements had factored into the decision. Firstly, I'm sorry, fair warning, I'm going to be a little bit rude now. I can't believe a statement so shallow came from a genuine art curator when there are so many different interpretations one can have of this painting beyond just women as, quote, passive decorative art. In my personal opinion, the only explanation for such a surface-level analysis might be, maybe, ideology poisoning. This is what happens when you spend too much time around wanky, pretentious contemporary art. You get too addicted to sniffing your own farts and then end up thinking that if it's not a blob of snot on a canvas, it can't possibly have complex meanings. Oh, embarrassing for you. It's a beautiful painting of beautiful things. There can't possibly be any other meaning there. The artist must just like painting pretty pictures. Childish, really, isn't it? Vulgar and gauche. Here at Manchester Art Gallery, we are far too sophisticated for such things. Look here instead. Have you seen our blob of snot? Okay, I'm joking, I'm being a little mean, I'm being a little facetious, but I'm sorry, there's just so much to address here, and so many things that I personally found incredibly stupid and shallow about this whole statement, if that's all you think of this painting, to be honest. And I'll get to all of it, but the first thing I want to talk about is this implication that to show women as femme fatales is in some way sexist, because it, I don't know, pick your reason. Reason number 1, portrays them as only existing for the pleasure of men. Reason number 2, implies that a woman's only power must come from her sexuality. Or reason number 3, demonises female sexuality as being dangerous and absolves men from bad behaviour by presenting the woman as an evil temptress. She made me do it, she's a witch, it's not my fault I forced her, she must have put a spell on me, type thing. If I had to guess, and I'm guessing, I would say that those are the main reasons one might object to presenting women as femme fatales. But I'm just guessing, as I said, because I couldn't see anywhere in this instance that she'd expanded much on this idea about why the femme fatale is inherently offensive. And look, there is some truth to these objections. If that's all you represent women as, sure, that could be a problem. But art depicts moments in time, themes, experiences. And maybe part of this isn't really about women. So the first thought I had when I walked out of the gallery, and I said this to my friend at the time, was, but is it sexist to represent women as femme fatales, or is it a really fundamental part of the male experience that they have a right to express through art? Okay, I wasn't quite as concise as that, but that was the sentiment. When you look at a beautiful painting of a beautiful scene and think beauty is the only thing it was created for because, I don't know, it's both beautiful and old, when you take art like that entirely literally and so confidently so confidently state this enough that you're going to remove the artwork from the wall for this reason and imprint your own interpretation on it to that degree. Arrogant. Yeah, you so confidently imply that its sole purpose is to show beautiful nude women for the male gaze, to the extent that you impose that so much, your interpretation on it, as I said, you take it from the wall. I think it's quite arrogant, actually. The implication there is that the art of the past, or of the Victorian era specifically, can't possibly be as complex and revolutionary and meaningful as art that, I don't know, really says something about our current political, sexual, or economic climate, or whatever the hell the Tate Modern is displaying nowadays. I've been recently. Nothing good. I find this perspective breathtakingly short-sighted, because not only does it denigrate the painting, but it also denigrates the myth itself that the painting is representing. I've come across quite a few people who look down on pre-Raphaelite art for celebrating beauty or for painting scenes from poems or myths. But myths aren't just silly fairy stories. Well, hell, fairy stories aren't just silly fairy stories. Myths really tell us about human psychology. That's what they are. Symbolic representations of psychological journeys in a form that's easy to understand. Now who's being pretentious? Put me on the wall at Manchester Art Gallery. Is that enough bullshit for you? Mrs. Ganaway, I don't know if she's Ms. I don't know if she's Mrs. or Miss or Doctor or Curator Ma'am. I don't know what your title is, but just saying. Use symbolic representations of psychological journeys in a form that's easy to understand. And the myth of Hylas and the Nymphs, while a fascinating story and a beautiful painting in their own right, are also not literal. Art often isn't literal. Almost always it isn't, actually, really. Art doesn't have to represent reality. It can represent psychology too. Or an emotion. And isn't it pretty common to the male experience to, at some point in your life, be so entranced by a woman that you feel completely and utterly powerless? Is it fair to deny them expressing that experience because, women feel like it's offensive? But what if that's a genuine human experience? What if a female artist had an experience of being abused by men and painted them as monsters, as a way to express her experience of the world and how afraid she was? Would the art world have a problem with that? She could title her series The Male Gaze, and critics around the world would applaud her for representing the feelings and fears of being a woman experiencing the world as the focus of uncontrollable male desire. And in this hypothetical, I don't think her experience of being made to feel powerless by men and like prey is something that she should be stopped for expressing because it, I don't know, quote, furthers the narrative that men are aggressive beasts or something. We would all understand, well, most of us, I can even give a few that don't have the brain power, but apart from that, we'd all understand, except Rolo, we'd all understand that this isn't a literal reality of what she thinks about men or what they literally are. We would know that this is an internal representation of her feelings when coming into contact with men and was an authentic expression of that. Does that make sense, you know? So in a way, it has nothing to do with men as they are in reality. It's a painting of her inner world. You know, and I think really that we have something of the same here. In this way, I think you could argue that there's something in these paintings that are more about an internal male experience than they are trying to say anything about women. I think to deny that this is part of the male experience is silly, when sirens and fairies luring men to their deaths has always been a thing. That's a mythological representation of the male fear of becoming so ensnared by the beauty or power of a woman that she leads you helplessly to doom and destruction. Like the sailors who heard the voices of the beautiful sirens, can't help themselves, and then they steer their ships onto the rocks and they crash to smithereens and then they drown and end up as skeletons in this pond. So that's your fate, you know? If you're not careful, boys. That's what the painting's trying to tell you. Maybe, possibly. This mythological representation of this woman is heartless and cruel and effortlessly controls you. Now, is that an accurate representation of all women? Don't answer that. No is the answer. I know some of you, oh, I'm watching you. No. Is it an accurate representation, however, of a psychological and emotional experience men sometimes go through? Or a fear they have? Or of how bittersweet it feels to desire someone who seems totally ethereal and out of your reach? Yeah, probably. Probably is an accurate representation of that. So I wasn't the only one who came to this conclusion. Manchester Art Gallery, so in there, like, when they removed the painting at the time, back in 2018, people could write post-it notes in the place on the wall where the painting used to be and, like, their thoughts on the removal of the painting. And there were lots of mixed feelings, let me tell you that. So some of those post-it notes are still in the display, but not many of them, only a few. They picked out a few to put them in the exhibit next to it. But I actually found a blog that gathered from the time the most interesting ones. So I'm throughout this, I'm probably just going to read some of them because I think, you know, people, the general public's opinions on moving it. So this guy came to the same conclusion that I did. Art is supposed to reflect the entirety of the human condition. Surely this includes exploring male desire and men's fear of female power, which is what this painting represents. It is a snapshot of male anxiety just at a time when women were starting to win more freedom. It tells a tale from our history, which is exactly what museums are supposed to do. Manchester Gallery should present their art to the public and allow them to judge, not hide it away, which is tantamount to cultural theft. So a guy named Tom said that. Well done, Tom. Well said. But yes, yeah, it's really as much about that as it is a painting of women.
I don't know if women have any idea how paralyzing they are to, especially young men. A very large number of my clinical clients, but also young men I've talked to in general, are absolutely terrified of women because they're terrified of being rejected. And the terror exists in precise proportion to the retraction to the woman.
Men have been terrified, paralyzed by women for as long as there have been timelines.
So, see, now one could interpret this painting solely as an excuse to see naked, beautiful women, but that's a very, very, very shallow interpretation. Like, isn't this sometimes part of the male experience, seeing women like this as a temptress? And is it fair for us to ask to not be represented in that way? Just like a man asking a woman not to portray men as scary in art. Like, what if that's her experience? And is this not a fairly universal part of the male experience? At some point, coming across a beautiful woman and feeling like, well, like the bloke in the image. Like you're looking at a goddess, totally helpless and at her mercy. Like there's something scary and dangerous and powerless about that. I mean, it seems to be a fear of a lot of the Red Pill guys that I've come across. Or they've already gone through that. Yeah, a man being led to ruin by a beautiful woman? Not uncommon. In general, I agree, it's not a good way to look at women. But this painting is about longing and desire and downfall. And can that not sometimes be represented in art? Does it not say something true about the human experience? I think it does. I'm going to read again from this article. Again, everything will be and then linked down below. So this article goes on to say that it's crass to describe Waterhouse as a kinky old perv. The painter was not a Victorian equivalent of a top-shelf magazine reader, but a sophisticated aesthete, conscious that he was sublimating taboo desires in his pictures. He no doubt inscribed himself as Hylas, as he inscribed himself as the knight beguiled by a winsome maiden in La Belle Dame sans Merci, inspired by John Keats' poem. Erotic though they are, both paintings are tense and mournful. There is an aura of regret about the seductions taking place, as they will lead to dissipation and death. Hylas will pay the ultimate price for indulging lust, the knight for falling in love. Yes. We can point to many, many examples of men causing huge destruction for want of a woman. Henry VIII famously tore apart the Catholic Church and changed English history forever, for one. I'm sure lots of you can think of smaller scale and more modern examples, like a man imploding his family and leaving his wife and children for a mistress. Or a bloke giving away all his savings to an OnlyFans girl when it's really Andrew Tate behind the keyboard. Yeah, you might not like it, but the idea that men aren't and haven't always been motivated by women, and that sometimes that leads to their ruin, is a bit stupid, actually, I think. A little bit. Just a little bit. Now, that doesn't absolve them, by the way, of responsibility or put everything on the women, of course. No, in some cases, the women were unwilling in that drama that was created. In some cases, not. In some cases, they were the instigator. You know, that's humans. We're complicated. And 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, and, you know? Yeah, it doesn't absolve them of that responsibility or put everything on the women, of course, but this painting makes no such moral judgments. And not wanting accurate representations of real parts of humanity because they're offensive is just an intentional attempt to warp the truth to fit into how you specifically want the world to be, as far as I'm concerned. So, one note to quickly mention, because this actually quite annoyed me. So I might get some people saying, well, there's more than one reason why Manchester Art Gallery removed that painting. It's not just because it depicts beautiful, half-naked women. Some might say, and some in fact have said, that they depict clearly pubescent women or girls, and I think it was it a Guardian article writer who said that it was, quote, unmistakably paedophilic. Unmistakably paedophilic. Unmistakably, see, I'm getting caught on that word unmistakably. That's the word I'm having trouble with. I have several things to say. Firstly, can I see that you could make that argument? Yes, you could make that argument. They look like young women, or you could argue they look like teenage girls. But it's actually not entirely clear. So it would still be an argument, it's not unmistakable. That's first thing. Secondly, I don't know who needs to hear this, maybe the writer of the article. You do know that women with small breasts exist, and they're not children. And it's a little bit insulting to imply that they are. I think Manchester Art Gallery will be receiving a very strongly worded letter from the Itty Bitty Titty Committee if they don't watch their step. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and I think it was that same article, the unmistakably, article. She said that she writes about that she remembers when her breasts looked like that, when her breasts were that small, and that that my breasts looked like that of a child or something, and that she was interested in roller skating and doing other things back in the day when her breasts looked like that. That's amazing for you. I'm really happy for you. No, genuinely, that's great. Some women still have small breasts. I'm going to now show, to prove it, I'm going to put on the screen images of famous women who have small breasts. Yep. Oh my goodness, they exist. Wow, and they're not children. Oh my goodness. Wow. And some of them are seen as highly desirable. Yeah. How do I feel about the fact that what that says about smaller chested women? You're not allowed to be desired or be in a painting because you like a child. You're like a child. Get wrecked. Yeah. So that's my first problem. My second problem is, I think there would be more weight to that argument if John William Waterhouse had a history of painting lots of paintings of quite overtly sexual, on the border, are they young or are they not? If there was a history of, this is the thing, stuff like this, because it is up to interpretation, I think you have to look at the pattern of behaviour. And apparently also there was no scandal in his personal life when he was alive. Most of his other paintings I've seen are very clearly adult women, like mature adult women, a lot of them. So I think the fact that, if it was a pattern of behaviour where he seemed to really glorify or almost, fetishize, I guess, really youthful and looking ever younger women and girls, and you're like, oh, that's a bit, and they were always a little bit lewd or a little bit whatever it happens to be. Okay, I could see your argument. But it's just kind of not, and I think you need more than that to accuse a man of being unmistakably, and kind of, I know he's dead, but still, go about slandering him, kind of, wrecking his legacy, and not just making the argument for it. You make the argument for it, but to just be like, yeah, he's a creep, and we know that, and I just don't think, I'm just not, again, you can make that argument, but to be so certain of that, when his other paintings, I think most of them very clearly mature women, and not many of them are that sexual, so I think it's unfair, and could those women be, could the nymphs be pubescent teenage girls? Yeah. Could they also be young women? Yeah, they could be that too. Point is, it's not, you don't know, and to claim to know his intentions when there's no pattern there, I think is just a little bit, I don't like that. And also because, and to me, I didn't think teenagers when I saw that. I thought, I saw young women. And also, it makes sense why they look youthful, because they're nymphs. That sort of eternal youth, impish look. But I don't necessarily see child. I heard some people bring the point that there's a couple of nymphs at the corners that look younger, but they're also completely covered up. So yeah, I just think, you know, maybe if you believe that. I personally don't think I do. I personally don't think I do, and I think it's a bit rude to just be like, yeah, that's definitely pedophilia because they've got small boobies. So I don't like that. Thank you, Manchester Art Gallery. And that Guardian writer. Alright, humble brag. God, just going, I remember when my breasts were that small. I was a child. I think the objection that this artwork is offensive enough to be equated with the Me Too movement because, as the curator said, it shows the female body as passive decorative art, reaches absurd levels of ridiculousness. First obvious point, and I mean, I don't know who's going to let her know this, but it's a painting, and paintings are generally known for being passive and decorative. That is one of the purposes of art. You hang it on the wall and you look at it. Wow. If you want complex characters, read a book. That's all I'm saying. No, okay, look, I'm sorry, I'm being facetious again, I'm being rude. Look, I just think this point, is a bit stupid. I think this proves the horseshoe theory of intelligence, when you overthink and over-intellectualize something so much that you come full circle all the way around to sounding idiotic again. What about all the paintings and statues of fine-muscled male specimens? What about them? What about them? Well, someone left a post-it note with, I thought, a very good suggestion to solve this problem. This is by a bloke called David. He wrote, "Put a homoerotic image or sculpture next to the Waterhouse to redress the balance." That's a very good solution from David. Thank you, David. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of David, how about Michelangelo's David? You know, like that. Should we dismiss that as passive decorative art? Like, she is describing most artwork. You people do get this, right? Like, passive and decorative. She's literally described what art is. I think I'm going to go insane. Yes, the women in the painting are nice to look at. As is the man, as is the lake, and the flowers. Because artists, and this might be shocking, but what they do, or at least what they used to do before people started paying millions for squiggles on a canvas, is they make things that are pleasing to look at. Imagine getting mad at a painting for looking nice. No. Imagine removing a painting from your gallery for looking nice. But okay, as you can tell, I think it's a silly point regardless. But let's take it seriously anyway. Sure, I know what she means. Okay? Like, the women represented in this painting are very beautiful and are clearly presented as alluring and tempting to men. But is that all they are? Only if you take the most shallow analysis of this painting, in my opinion. Sure, art is decorative. This painting is decorative. But it isn't just decorative. There seems to be a theme in the contemporary art world with thinking that beauty and meaning can't go together, and for some reason, in order to make some profound, multi-layered statement, you've got to make something utterly grotesque to look at. You do know something can be decorative, and also not just be decorative. I don't know why that's a difficult concept. Just like a woman can be beautiful, and, stay with me, and have more to her than just being beautiful. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Didn't Elle Woods teach us this back in 2001?
Come on, you're never gonna get the grades to qualify for one of those spots. You're not smart enough, sweetie.
You got into Harvard Law? What, like it's hard?
You know what I really find quite ironic about all these people flapping about panicking, you know, about romantic paintings like these, objectifying women and catering to the male gaze? In my experience, the people who always love paintings like these, like the most, pre-Raphaelite or pre-Raphaelite inspired art, the people who love these beautiful, sensual and romantic depictions of women the most, almost always seem to be, and drumroll please, women. Straight women, as in the people whom the art is depicting, yet who have no sexual desire for the women in the images. Clearly, then, are they not seeing something in these paintings beyond the female body as passive decorative art? Or how could that be? Because I'll tell you what I think is going on. I think women like art like this so much is because art like this is reverent to women. They are shown as powerful and adored and revered and beautiful, and women, generally, really quite like that. I think that's evidence to show this is the opposite of degrading, that it resonates and feels, it connects in that way with so many women. Here's some more quotes from the post-it notes about women expressing similar sentiments. I'm really shocked by this decision. I grew up in Manchester and I love this painting. I was always proud that we had it in Manchester. It seems so much more beautiful than so many of the gallery's other paintings. As a teenage girl, I had a print of this on my bedroom wall and often popped into Manchester Art Gallery when I was passing to see it displayed there. I always saw it as entirely empowering. It's the young girls in the painting who are powerful, not Hylas. It's partly the trust in Hylas's face that I used to find so moving, and partly just the strength of the emotion in that central gaze. Despite the painting's title and theme, the gaze between Hylas and the central nymph isn't lecherous and it isn't coquettish either. It's a depiction of love, misguided young love, with all its passionate strength and hope and misjudgment. It's an extraordinarily beautiful painting too. The facial expressions are so realistic, much more so than in many paintings of the same era, and the detail is so carefully observed. So, someone called Sarah wrote that. Yeah, and I agree with her. I think that one of the main things, and there's many things I love about that painting actually, but I think it is the look between them. It's such a profound look. There's nothing lewd or cheap or lecherous about it. Yeah, like she said, it just seems really open actually and honest, ironically, considering the theme of the painting, but it just seemed very honest and innocent and intimate and, yeah, strong. Anyway, so this is another, this wasn't from a post-it. This was an article. Guardian reader Mary Pester wrote, quote, "When I first saw reproductions of the painting as a young woman, I loved it. It was the early 1970s and the water nymphs looked like me. The long hair, the breasts, the lovely young skin. I felt the excitement of my attractiveness and the possible power of my sexuality, like the water nymphs wanting to lure Hylas into the water with them. There needs to be a conversation, discussion and openness, not the banning of paintings." So what is interesting, and what I noticed, and some of you will no doubt have noticed, in both of these women's responses to Hylas and the nymphs, they both mention power. Far from the nymphs being powerless or passive, a lot of women, and I include myself in this, connect emotionally with something deeper than a pretty face. They saw themselves in the nymphs, powerful, admirable, hidden aspects of themselves, and you can't see yourself in empty shells of female bodies that are merely passive decorative art. So going back to the initial quote of the curator objecting to the fact that the painting was in a room titled "In Pursuit of Beauty" because it endorses male artists pursuing women's bodies, I don't know whether that seems amazingly ambitious or insanely naive. Imagine endorsing a crazy idea like that. No way! Oh my god! That's insane, bro! Men pursuing women? No way! No way! That's crazy. Oh my god, that's mental. That's so mad. Can't believe that happened. That was allowed to happen in Manchester Art Gallery and it was endorsed. Imagine men pursuing women or thinking they're pretty. That's so not feminist of them. I'm sorry to burst the bubble of whoever was unaware of this fact, but men do find women beautiful. I know. I don't think that's a fact of humanity we can ever escape from, no matter how many moralising Puritan lectures are given by humorless contemporary art curators. Sorry, that was really mean, no offence. If you look at almost any culture and any art, they're obsessed with the female form. You have it, like, in ancient cultures, like some ancient clay statue of a fertility goddess. Like, some of the oldest arts, and like, they're obsessed with us girls. They're just obsessed. It seems to be one of the things that artists, female artists too, by the way, female artists too, but particularly male artists, like to depict the most. Men like naked women. No way. And I don't think, I don't think that's an inherently bad thing. It can be. Don't get me wrong. It can be. But it's also, it can be, yeah. But it's also a great compliment that throughout human history, the beauty of women has been celebrated again and again and again and again and again. There is something reverent in it, like I said before. And also, who said that the female body has to be overtly sexual? Waterhouse's painting is beautiful because the human body is beautiful and the emotions in it are beautiful. But it's not obvious to me that it's softcore pornography, like as some people have described it. When do we get to the point that we're just censoring women's bodies and seeing them as something to be ashamed of? Or how about the new rule is women's bodies are only allowed to be shown if they're not presented in a way that invites the viewer to think that they're beautiful? Call me crazy, but I would far rather live in a world where the female form is revered and admired rather than degraded or seen as ugly. Also, do I have to say this? Do I have to say this? Probably. I think I'm going to have to. I say that like I haven't already scripted this, guys. It's fine. Go along with it. I know it's really obvious, so I'm looking down. It's fine. Shh. No one will ever know. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell them. Shh. We'll keep it a secret. Comment below if you're in on the secret. And then people who haven't got to this part of the video yet will wonder what you're talking about. And also, yes, that was another scheme. Damn it, you see right through me. I'm trying to get you to boost me in the algorithm. Go on, do it though. Do it, please. Help me out. Okay. But what I was going to say, that I pretended I didn't already script. Whatever. Look, it's authentic. They don't call me authentic for nothing. But what I was going to say, that I don't think I should have to say, and I don't think I should have to say, but apparently I'm going to have to say it. Mainstream cultural feminism can pretend all they like that it's a deep insult to women, to all women, to be pursued for their beauty. But this does not change the obvious truth that actually women want to be pursued for their beauty. And what is wrong? What is wrong with the pursuit of beauty? Like, what is wrong with that core concept anyway? What is wrong with men finding women attractive? Women are beautiful. I think women are beautiful. Men appreciate beauty, and they should, because like I said, and I'll say it one more time, women are beautiful. And there's really nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with beauty. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with beauty, and I'm not talking here about shallow vanity or having to fit into obscene beauty standards, but real true beauty that comes in many forms. The art world in general now seems to have a problem with beauty. This painting is beautiful. The nymphs are beautiful. The lake is beautiful. Nature is beautiful. The story it tells is sad and beautiful. It is an inescapable truth that women want to be pursued for their beauty, and it is odd to me to declare something as offensive to women when it is something that many women so very clearly want. Crack open a romance novel if you don't believe me. Christ, if he doesn't at some point tell the heroine she's beautiful, especially if she's not considered conventionally attractive, then you're not reading a romance novel. I don't know why everyone knows this is true. I know you know this is true. Look, some women won't feel that way. Some women will not feel that way. I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying that these women don't exist, but they are anomalies, I think. I don't think I've ever met a woman who doesn't want to be seen as beautiful and appreciated for that, at least sometimes. Show me a woman on the planet, maybe there is one, but like, what woman doesn't want to be seen as beautiful by her partner? Doesn't want to be pursued, at least in part, for that? We can claim it's insulting to have paintings of beautiful women where men are looking at them transfixed as if their beauty is all that matters, which firstly, celebrating beauty does not translate as that being the only thing that matters. But look, we can moralise that it's insulting to have paintings of beautiful women where men are staring at them like that, and the viewer is invited to stare at her like that. However, show me a woman who doesn't want to be looked at like that. At least sometimes. There'll be some, but not many who don't at least sometimes want to be looked at like that. Or that. Or that. Or that. I just really find it utterly bizarre to claim that it's degrading or insulting to a woman to be pursued for her beauty, when at the same time, to feel like her partner finds her beautiful is something that makes most women feel valued and cared for, and they would actually feel really hurt and unappreciated if that element wasn't there. Give it a go. Go on. Next time your girlfriend dresses up and asks you if she looks nice, say, "Babe, because of feminism, I never pursue women for their beauty. That's not important. And really, you should consider why you even want to be seen as beautiful." Try it. And see if she really feels valued and, respected as a fellow equal human being. I fucking dare you. We know it's a lie. We know it's a lie. This is my problem. Removing that painting from the gallery under the pretense that it's insulting to women is just a lie. I think. Sorry. And I think my little example there proves it. And if you disagree, then say that sentence to a woman next time she asks you how she looks. Man or woman, if you're a man or a woman, try it with a friend or your mother and see if it makes her feel so feminist and empowered. No. I can tell you now, it will just hurt her feelings because she wants to be valued in some way like the women in those paintings are valued. And sure, I'm generalising, but I'm pretty confident in that generalisation. I feel like that's a safe generalisation to make. I think it's a rare woman who doesn't feel that way. And that's okay, because there's nothing embarrassing about wanting that. So no, I don't see how appreciating female beauty is insulting or objectifying. And I'm not talking, by the way, let's make a distinction. I'm very much not talking about some shallow dickhead who only values a woman on her looks. And is constantly chasing the next young thing or a pretty face and only values you for how good you look in lingerie or whatever. Because yes, in that case, I agree that is just as degrading as not being seen as beautiful at all. And then you really are just a body and not a person. A body that's being used solely for pleasure or as a status symbol or to make money. And that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. That has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about. This isn't some Andrew Tate crap of a woman past the age of 23 is worthless because a woman's only value is her looks and, that's it, and, then she's ugly and, this isn't what I'm saying. Look at these paintings that I'm talking about. These women are clearly adored, not objectified. And yes, the moments in time, they're timeless paintings, but they're the sort of moments or looks that you would expect would exist if those characters in those moments in time were allowed to age and grow old, and you would expect that would still be there. That's that kind of... It's not a shallow thing. Yeah, the women in it are clearly being adored, not objectified. They're not being looked at with ownership. They're being looked at with reverence. And here's another problem. Do we really want to demonise this sort of reverence towards women? We already know that a lot of women like that, at least sometimes. But going beyond that, preferences and what women like, what's the alternative? Men are still going to desire women. So they can desire women, but aren't allowed to adore women or think they're beautiful. Aren't allowed to romance women? I don't know, I don't like where this is going, and that's not just because it means romance is dead. Because you know who I think that's going to benefit? Men who don't want to treat women very well. Now you can not treat women well, and it means you're hip and so #feminist rather than just a scumbag. So I've heard this argument. I'm going to say this argument, and I wonder what you guys think about this. Let me know what you think of this argument, because I'm pondering. I've heard feminists like Louise Perry and Mary Harrington, both make this case, and I think it's certainly interesting. So they argue that chivalry was always there to protect women, for very good reasons, and there is truth to that. So the argument goes that yes, while sometimes it can be patronising, the women wanting to get rid of it completely are mostly middle-class, well-educated women, but they're not the ones who will suffer the consequences. Here goes the argument. This is the argument they're making. So I believe their point is that culturally it creates an expectation of men taking care of women, or at the very least an acknowledgement that women are more vulnerable. And if at the upper levels of society that means a guy holding a door open for a woman, at the lower levels of society maybe it means a guy not punching a woman in the face, or not dipping out if she gets pregnant, or stepping in if a woman is getting assaulted on a train because it's assumed to be his responsibility, rather than she's an independent woman who can take care of herself, I have no duty to, There's been an obscene number of train assaults where passers-by have done literally nothing. Or there was like a few years ago. I don't know if that's still a thing, but so I don't know. I don't know if I'm completely sold on that argument. I would need to think about it more, and I'm sure there's compelling arguments you could come up with against it. But I do think there's something to it. I think there's something to it, and I can draw a parallel with that and this demonization of romance. I just am really uncomfortable with this attitude that appreciation and reverence of women is somehow sexist. I'm not sure I would like the alternative. I'm not sure the alternative would be some feminist utopia. I think the alternative might mean a lack of respect, or being used, or give men a free pass to treat women badly, and she's not allowed to want anything different because that would be betraying feminism. He's looking at you like you're a beautiful goddess? How dare he objectify you? What a sexist pig! Get you a man who feels no responsibility or adoration for you at all. Big win for feminism. I'm not sold on that. I'll be honest, Manchester Art Gallery. Yeah, I just think actually that this type of attitude is denigrating femininity and not allowing it to be appreciated. Because that's what these paintings really show. Femininity and beauty and an appreciation of that. Talking about, do we really want to demonize this sort of reverence towards women? This seems to me a far more misogynistic viewpoint rather than a feminist idea, which I just find really bizarre. So here's a clip I found literally just as I was editing this video of well-known misogynist Pearl, which at this point I hesitate to call especially women misogynists, because I think often they're called that if they have different ideas, but genuinely I've never come across a woman with so much contempt and disgust for womanhood, for being a woman, for other women. The more, it's very tragic, the lack of, it's funny because she accuses other women of having no self-respect, and I've never come across a woman with as little self-respect as she has. Anyway, here's a clip of her talking about, I'll play the clip and you'll see seems to be perfectly in alignment with this attitude of not wanting any sort of reverence or appreciation for women or femininity or women's beauty. This is it's kind of misogyny I'm talking about, where it's a hatred of like femininity itself as well as women and of beauty.
But I've recently started reconsidering Catholicism, and the reason being is that, and I'd like to say this is not definitive, I've noticed patterns in society and in history. And one pattern I've noticed is that we tend to elevate women higher than they should be and say they're more special and awesome than they are. And recently I've had the thought, wondering if the Catholic Church did that with Mary. But I'm not sure. So I still go to Catholic Church now, but it's kind of, I can't really get that thought out of my mind recently.
I mean, there's so many things to say about this clip. I could do a full video on it in and of itself. First of all, the absolute brain dead take that you are reconsidering your entire religion and your beliefs on the universe and how the world was formed and laws of morality and the existence itself, not because you've been persuaded by any arguments or you've come to any rational conclusion. Or even been led into belief, like it's based on your own faith, or you're doubting your faith, but literally because you hate women so much that you cannot conceive of a woman being respected in the church. And also, the insane thing, it's not like, yes, the Virgin Mary is held in very high regard in the Catholic Church, but also it's not like there are no men held in high regard in the Catholic Church. Like, for God's sake, what about Jesus? But like, if she's a Catholic, she's already accepted that she believes. So I'm not a Catholic, but if I, like, this is why it's insane to know that she's a Catholic and she's saying this. So if you're a Catholic, you believe that, so the Virgin Mary is like, what, elevated above all, above like humanity, and is like this sacred figure that's, was divine enough and given, this gift of birthing the Son of God or whatever. This is like a hugely profound thing. So it's not that she doesn't believe that. It's that this is how insane she is. She believes that premise because she's a practicing Catholic. She believes that is true. And yet still thinks that even though this woman is so divine that she was chosen by God to birth the Son of God, this woman is still not worthy of like that level of reverence. That is madness. I need you to consider that. I know a lot of people listening are not going to be Catholics and believe that. But imagine if you did believe that. So imagine if you do believe that premise. You would have to be, like, by her own standards, She is so blasphemous and like arrogant and like, aren't you literally questioning God and thinking that your opinion, like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's fine if you don't believe that premise, but if you believe that premise and then go, but this is the reason I'm questioning my religion is because people, like, God praised this woman too much. It's just insane to me that the level of contempt she has for women, that it's like not even allowed to be revered as like amazing women throughout history are not allowed to be it's astonishing to me, but and also incredibly stupid that she's basing her whole, like, this proves to me that she doesn't think, she's doubting her faith because of that. That's incredibly stupid. But this is the kind of attitude that I'm talking about. This is, I think, so for me, I'm like, yeah, the kind of reverence, this love of beauty, of femininity, and not shallow beauty. I'm not talking women having to adhere to impossible beauty standards, nothing like that, no, but like the beauty in women, in femininity, and like everyday women, like this, like, and being seen of as beautiful and being adored in that way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And often I find in misogynists, actually, on both the left and the right, a hatred of women for that, or like resenting women for that kind of adoration in a way. There's something going on weird with that there, kind of anger at that. And you see it in Pearl. So this is what I kind of see as, so this is why I'm fully, like, I just don't see it as a feminist idea, because it's totally in alignment with a lot of like Pearl's like hatred and contempt of femininity. It's so funny because for her so hating feminism, being an anti-feminist, it's so in alignment with some, not all, I don't want to, but like there's some aspects of toxic feminism I think are just perfectly in alignment with her ideas and, you know, what she believes. And then they're perfectly in alignment with a lot of misogynistic stuff. So yeah, I hope this kind of emphasizes my point more, that often it's those who have contempt, if not for women, then for femininity itself, who don't like these things or who want to get rid of them, or, you know. And I find these things actually really respectful towards women, not degrading. And I find it weird that some people kind of see it that way. I mean, you're allowed to, but yeah, I just think it reveals a dislike of femininity that I've talked about before. And I'm always going to champion femininity, so there we go. And that's not to say, because there have been other, I think romance is probably dead from a lot of angles. There's also, you know, that's not to say that it's about materialism, or that, well, okay, one of the biggest examples of that is Cheesecake Factory Girl. I was going to mention her in another video. If anyone hasn't come across Cheesecake Factory Girl, that was from a while ago. She went on a date with a guy. There's a video. So basically, she kept him, and the context was she starts filming him and like bullying him basically. But the context is before she starts filming, they had a time for a date. She was late by an hour, getting ready, and made him wait outside for an hour, for a first date. She didn't want to invite him in, which, okay, yeah, if you don't know him, but also then, like, don't make him wait an hour. They missed their reservation at this nice restaurant he'd booked because she was late. And then she kicked off because he took her to Cheesecake Factory, which, I don't know, we don't have that here. I don't know what that's like, but it doesn't sound bad. And lots of people seem to say there was nothing wrong with Cheesecake Factory. But then again, that was her fault because, I mean, surprised he even still went on the date with her. But yeah, then she had like a tantrum and refused to get out of the car, and then started filming him and bullying him, and basically been like, look at me, I'm so beautiful, I'm the prize, are you going to take me? Then she was like, me? All this? In there? A Cheesecake Factory? I spit on Cheesecake Factory. She didn't actually say that, but that was the vibe, you know? I was going to include a clip of the Cheesecake Factory date, but as I looked into it, it turns out it is fake. There are 2 takes of it. So if it was real, there wouldn't be 2 takes. Because I'd heard rumours that it was fake, but there didn't seem to be any proof. But I've seen a video which side by side shows the 2 takes of it. And allegedly, apparently, it was some manosphere guy who hired them as actors and set it up to show women in a bad light. So isn't that amazing? How highly ironic that these manosphere guys who will not stop harping on about how terrible and evil women are and like false accusations and all of this can't find a real life example of a woman behaving like trash on a date, so they have to fake it and literally do, like, can you imagine if feminists did that to men? How much they would lose their minds. Like, they are despicable, they're actually disgusting. So yeah, talk about false accusations and false narratives. However, I included the mention of that date anyway, just to get across my point, because it illustrates my point that that's not the kind of thing I'm talking about, is entitlement and being a brat. But, okay, that attitude there, her attitude there, that is not an appreciation of beauty, that is self-obsession that I'm talking about. That's rude, entitled, materialistic. Yeah, that's not what I mean. That's not the energy of entitlement that I'm talking about when I'm talking about this concept of romance in these paintings and, everything else. I don't think those paintings are objectifying or degrading. Sorry, I think that kind of attitude where it says those paintings are terrible is an attitude that doesn't appreciate femininity, in a way. And here's the thing, is romance sexist and patronising? Or is it appreciative and respectful? I think it can be both, actually, depending on how you go about it. And to be completely fair, can it also be demeaning if a man puts a woman on a pedestal to the extent that it's not even about her anymore? Yeah. The film 500 Days of Summer was a very good representation of this problem. In his head, she was a special, magical girl created just for him, existed just for him, and he became both hurt and angry whenever she acted in ways that didn't fit with the fantasy he had created. And instead, she acted like the very flawed and human person she always was, and was upfront about being, but he refused to believe what she said about herself and decided to impose his fantasy onto her. His devotion to her was not about her, but was actually just very inward-looking and narcissistic. At no point did it really matter to him what was best for her, or what she wanted. So I understand that going too far with that admiration, and putting on a pedestal, can be just as insulting as not being admired at all, because he doesn't see you as a real person. He's not really looking at you, but the idea of you. You're invisible to something he's seeing beyond you. So I understand why people can take that concept and say, well, that's sexist, because it's just like this idea of, a woman. There's a fly in this room. Is there a moth? I hope it gets away from the camera. Jordan Peterson spoke about this, and sometimes I get a hard time from people for bringing him up, but I do think he's really very good and perceptive on matters of psychology and myth. I do, actually. I've heard him talk, there's a good clip I heard him talk where he was talking about the dangers of putting a woman on a pedestal, because she can never live up to the ideal female that you've cast her as, and you end up punishing her for not being that impossible ideal. And thus you miss out on the beauty and humanness of that individual woman.
I had a tendency to put any woman that I was attracted to on a pedestal. What you're really attracted to is your unconscious idealization of women. And then they confuse the woman with that idealization, which is very difficult to bear for the woman because she's not really there. That's the first problem. Now, if you want the woman, the price you pay for that is that you have to let go of the princess.
I think he ended with saying that you can never truly love a real woman until you've let go of the fantasy of this ideal, non-existent woman that lives in your head. Because that means acknowledging that the real woman before you is a person. And the problem with people is that they're terrible and wicked and flawed. They're also angelic and beautiful and spectacular, but they're not just that. It's like I love that Terry Pratchett quote. I'm pretty sure it's Pratchett. Humanity is the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. I like that very much. But yeah, that's the point. She's not just an angel. I liked how Peterson described marriage, actually. Looking at someone and promising, how did he say? It was something like, hey, you're full of snakes, I'm full of snakes, and I don't know, let's face the snakes together or something, or deal with each other's snakes, or there's something. There's lots of snakes involved.
Trust will have to be predicated on something like courage rather than naivety. And the courage is something like the courage all wise people have when they undertake a relationship, which is something like, I know perfectly well that you're chock full of snakes, just like me. But the best pathway forward, nonetheless, is for us to extend a hand in trust to each other and see if we can build a valid and solid and sustainable and iterable relationship despite our mutual inadequacies and our proclivity for malevolence. And there isn't a better pathway forward than that. And that pathway is predicated on the ability to adopt a posture of attentive trust. There's a rule in this book: do not hide unwanted things in the fog. Yeah, well, people hide a lot of unwanted things in the fog in their relationships, and sometimes the consequence of that is a deep betrayal. And the medicine for that, the necessary antidote for that, is to reveal all those hidden things. And God, in a relationship that's gone spectacularly wrong, that can be 10,000 things that weren't faced in the course of the relationship. And every single one of them has to be resurrected and thought through.
No, I like that, just that description of people are full of snakes.
That's why you have a marriage vow. Because the marriage vow is basically this. This is the vow. No matter what you tell me, I won't run away. And that's a bitch of a vow, man. Because when someone unveils their whole heart, they unveil themselves all the way down to hell. It's not pleasant. It's awful. And so they need to know that you will not run away. And that's a vow, because what do you know?
So, I understand that argument. Putting a woman on a one-dimensional pedestal is not advisable. However, there should be moments of that. As long as you know that she is multi-dimensional and not actually a living Waterhouse painting, even if she sometimes makes you feel like that. I see nothing wrong with sometimes being awestruck by the angelic aspect of her, as long as that's not the only thing you see. But again, as I said earlier, a painting is a moment in time, an emotion, and thus exempt from such restrictions, from such mortal restrictions. Also, I don't even truly believe that Waterhouse's women are one-dimensional decorative creatures just existing to cater to the male gaze anyway. I mean, his paintings hardly portray women as like mindless sex kittens, and I think the implication that they do is, well, it annoys me because I think it's so blatantly wrong. And I bet most women would agree with me because there's a reason women love these paintings. Straight women famously do not like looking at sexual images of other women, and I can promise you that's not why I'm drawn to paintings like this. So what is it, if not, I just want to look at boobies, and it's not that, so then what? Hi. Are you tortured by never knowing what happened to the unreleased scripts from my unfinished video series, like parts 2 and 3 from my review of Netflix's Winx? Are you kept awake at night, pondering what mysteries the 30 minutes I cut from my Rolo video could hold? 30 key minutes where I addressed his unhinged rant that it's impossible for women to have heroes' journeys or be good protagonists. Did you enjoy channel videos like I become a narcissist, I declare war on mosquitoes, and of course, the classic, I talk and 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 talk? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, then joining my online cult could be the right choice for you. That's right. Over at The Authentic Observer on Patreon, you'll get access to unreleased scripts from videos I never uploaded, the cut sections from longer videos, if there are any, and hours of unedited rambles. I talk about everything, like how important mood is in storytelling and the difference, if any, between masculine and feminine points of view in writing. Or a video discussing the poetry of some of my patrons. Or that time Fresh and Fit had a proud grapist on their podcast. Remember Scientology? Old news. The Authentic Observer is the hip new cult on the block. All the cool kids are signing up. You do want to be cool, don't you? There are so many options to choose from. Our entry-level tier, Skirts and Stockings, is a great choice for beginners. Overgrown Harry Potter kids may feel more at home as a devoted follower of ACES. And for the alpha males amongst you, the woodshed could be just what you need. Just don't let Rolo see you. No one knows what he does to the men he catches. The Authentic Observer cult operates on an honesty system. All tiers have the same access to content, the idea being to support the channel and the content produced here at whatever level you feel appropriate. At the moment, I don't take sponsorships, so if you value the content on this channel and would like to support me, that's where to do it. Link down below in the description box. So if, like myself, you enjoy listening to the sound of my voice, hop on over to Patreon for an offer you don't want to miss. Join a cult today! I'll tell you why I think, partly, why I think these paintings are so appealing to women. These are not, as I said, just over-sexualized, like sex kitten, bimbo type images where it's clear that it's only her body that's being appreciated and she's presented as a bit mindless. They're really there only to please. In Waterhouse's paintings, I see adoration and appreciation of women. I don't see degradation and sexualization. Is it now feminist to hide women's bodies away and view them as inherently dirty or sexual, or like it's wrong to be desired? So I'll tell you what images like this do for young women, or can do, because I don't want to say it's for everyone, but they can do, and did for me. Give us a sense of empowerment in our sexuality. You heard it in the couple of quotes from the women that I read earlier. I didn't realise it at the time, but as a girl, when I saw these, subconsciously they relayed to me the message that it is possible to be desired without being degraded. That you could be wanted and that it could mean adoration, not abuse. That you could be looked at and admired and longed for without being objectified. That you could be seen as feminine and beautiful without being despised as weak and frivolous. As is the experience of many little girls. That there is a strange sort of power in being a woman that you don't quite understand yet, but it means something. There's something men don't have, that they can't understand. That's sacred and yours. Waterhouse's women have agency. They are complicated and compelling and have desires and wants and act on them. They are powerful, enchanting, and self-assured. These women are not helpless. They are not being rescued as they stare wide-eyed and adoring at a big, strong man. They are powerful symbols of femininity and autonomy. And I'll always love Waterhouse for that. The more I talk about this stuff on the internet and the more I speak to other women about these things, the more I realise just how much of a complicated relationship women have with sexuality. Almost always it's bound up in shame, and that's regardless of background. You could have been raised uber-conservative or uber-liberal, and yet these hang-ups seem a fairly common part of the female experience. The idea that you can't be wanted by men without it meaning that you are solely a sexual object. Without it meaning that you're dirty. The idea that something could be sensual and beautiful and make you feel valued rather than used is still something a lot of women grapple with. And that is why I think women adore artworks like this. If men wanted to look at naked women, there are other places they can go and find far more degrading pictures. It was the same back when Waterhouse was painting, by the way. You could get pornography then too, if you wanted to. It existed. It's not just a modern thing. It existed. That's why I don't buy that this art is just to satisfy the needs of some kinky Victorian perv, as someone put it. There is far more feeling and thought and meaning in these paintings than just wanting to see naked women, and I think, frankly, it shows a distinct poverty of imagination and soul to suggest otherwise. But that's just my opinion. So you can have yours. Could you still interpret Waterhouse's artwork in a sexist way? Probably. Is that analysis invalid? No. Art is subjective, which is my point. Who the hell are you to tell me I can't see it as I want to, and that it isn't allowed to mean to me what it has meant since I saw those paintings as a little girl, struggling to understand what it meant to be and become a woman? You might see them and see women being objectified, but myself, and many other women, because I'm not alone in this, saw in them something that helped us appreciate who we are. Why is your interpretation more valid and important than mine to the point where you remove it from our sight? Now that is what is insulting to women's autonomy and agency. So here's another post-it quote from the post-it wall of thoughts when they removed the painting. And I kind of don't know if this one is satire, because it almost sounds so silly that I'm like, were you joking when you wrote this? But I don't know if she is. While it is laudable that Manchester Gallery has finally woken up and garnered the courage to remove the Waterhouse travesty, it is disappointing that none of the other offending paintings were removed, as they should have been. The year is 2018, and we will no longer put up with such offensive dribble, if it is, supposedly, art or not. Women should be able to decide what kind of pictures of other women they want to be exposed to, not old white men. I urge the responsible curators not to be taken aback by the backlash they're seeing on social media. Obviously, people want to hang on to idols of their perverted view of gender dynamics. Such is the nature of discrimination. Fortunately, it is not up to them to decide what is being shown in museums, and I hope more institutions will follow in your footsteps. So that's from Gemma. Gemma sounds like so much fun at parties. I don't know, like, honestly, if that is actually real, I don't think I ever want to hang out with Gemma, because I'm not convinced that that's not a joke. She wants all the paintings gone, she wants all of them gone. And women should be able to decide what pictures of other women they want to. Not really, she doesn't really see irony in that sentence. Right. Yeah, as I said, ironic, Gemma, because here It's a woman, the curator. She's decided what other women are allowed to see or not see. I'm a woman, and I've decided that I want to be exposed to Waterhouse's paintings. So what do we do now, Gemma? Exactly. I'm sorry. I'm not an old white man. So can I see the painting, please, if I want to? Why do you get to decide what other women get to see? How about we leave it and let people... Maybe, oh, here's a revolutionary thought. Maybe if people go to the art gallery, they've decided they want to see it. Oh my god! That's such a good... Oh my god! Why did no one think of that? Mental. That's actually such a good, like, filtering process. Obviously, you know, prior to this, Waterhouse's painting of the Nymphs was just, like, flashed in people's faces constantly, all the time, going about their daily lives, which will not go away. But yeah, no, great idea. Let's put it in a gallery on a wall, and then old white men don't get to decide if women get to see it. Women get to decide if they get to see it when they go to the gallery. Rather than what actually happened, which was the opposite, which was that a woman decided she didn't want anyone to see it, including other women, and women went to the gallery to see it and realised they couldn't see it and were very upset. So, sorry, but I feel like that's a joke. I don't think I can take her statement seriously. So this is another post-it note. There are two important freedoms needed in an art gallery. 1, the freedom to display art even though not everyone approves of it, and 2, the freedom of the viewer to interpret that art as they see fit. Yes. Removing an artwork to the basement restricts the first freedom, and heavy contextualization of art limits the second. Yeah, that's Eileen said that. So, in this next post-it note, I think just put it very concisely and succinctly, and just expressed everything that needed to be said. Some of us aren't afraid of beauty and don't need big sisters to tell us other sisters what we're permitted to see. Agreed. See, I don't see Waterhouse's women merely as passive and decorative, as I said. I truly don't get that at all, and I never ever have. These women are romantic. They are mysterious and enigmatic and look at you as if there's a whole inner world within them that you can't begin to understand. They seem out of reach, spiritual, filled with their own desires and longings. These women do not just exist for the pleasure of men. They are sad and hopeful and thoughtful and curious and self-contained and furious and earnest and passionate and knowing and powerful and sensual and innocent and complicated and unreadable and existing entirely in their own worlds we can never access. In other words, they are people. People I could see elements of my own inner world reflected in a way I never would be able to with actual objectifying images of women just for the sake of objectifying them. Passive decorative art? As a child, I looked at these paintings and saw more in them than that. I found a mythology of depth and meaning in them, saw it reflect the feelings of my own identity as well as being just incredibly beautiful. Beautiful paintings. They reflected my love of nature and fairies and stories and the transcendent. What they actually represent, I think, is feminine power. I think all of the women in these paintings are powerful, and no, not just because of their sexuality. And I think that's why you hear so many women use words like power when they talk about their connection with paintings like these. These women are just as powerful as a painting of a warrior, just in an entirely different way. And look, if you notice, like with the painting of Lamia, like her hands are possessive and over his. Like look at their body language there. And also, again, with the Nymphs, you can't see it as obviously in that, but her hands are over... Look who's got the power in these situations, subtly. It's a subtle power, it's not, but that's the point, is it's not a dominating sort of power. And also I like the fact that in so many of these paintings, the women have unbound hair. I mean, that's always been a symbol of feminine sexuality, but also I think feminine freedom, unconstrained. In the past, and some areas in the present, it is unseemly and outrageous for women to have loose hair. So I like that as well. They seem actually free. And just look at the painting as well. Look at these men. Look at them. Look how the men. They're looking in their eyes. They're looking in her eyes. Not her body. Well, and this post-it note makes the point that the curators complained that it was male artists pursuing women's bodies. In the picture's own terms, it is quite obvious that it is the opposite. The women are pulling the hunky man into the pool. So Nick said that. And then there was no name, it's Surrealistic was the name, 84. When I look at this painting and understand the nymphs are luring him to his death, I see naked teenage girls in a lake about to commit murder. I can understand the historical context of the subjugation of women for the male gaze, but in today's context of women shaking off gendered expectations, a whole exhibition of murderesses in a classic artwork would be badass. Sign me up. yeah, there's just lots of different ways to interpret it, really. So there was one post-it note that asked the question, when I was actually in the art gallery, that was one that was physically there, that asked the question, why are women the subjects of paintings but so rarely the creators of them? Like, so why are so many women the subjects of the paintings but so few female artists are featured? So, and this really got me thinking. Not that it wasn't something I was unaware of, but it just got me thinking. And it reminded me of a video that Laytonicals posted a while ago, which I really recommend. I can't remember what the video is called, but I will link it. And I just recommend his channel in general, because it's really, 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 really good. He's criminally unsubscribed, so go over and check him out. Very nuanced, very, very interesting videos. I might if I find a clip, I might put it in, if I remember what video it's from. But, so I hope I'm not going to butcher his argument, because I'm only vaguely remembering this. And as I said, I rushed this just before I filmed it, so I've just written vague notes about what it was I kind of remembered he said.
Sigmund Freud said that everything you and I do springs from two motives, the sex urge and the desire to be great. I want to pair that quote with the idea that I shared in a previous video from David Buss, the evolutionary psychologist, the idea of sexual conditioning, this idea that because for men, sex is more scarce a resource to attain than it is for women, that men become conditioned, that men are sensitive to the kinds of things that will lead them to higher probabilities of attaining sex. And so, back to the Freud quote, this idea that, say, some people do things fundamentally as a way to try and increase the probability of them getting sex, as opposed to merely for the hell of the game, for the love of it, let's say. I think men, more than women, if you were to put it on a bell curve, are more led by their sex urge, is a bigger motivator for them, let's say, again, because of the sexual conditioning thing. You know, sex is more of a scarce resource, and so they have to be more sensitive toward what would potentially lead to sex, even inadvertently, you know? It's almost as if there's this kind of like reptilian ticker in the back of our brains that are like, but if I do this, how much more or less fuckable will I be? And this is why every guy's first thought when they pick up a guitar is, I wonder if I'll be able to play my favorite song. And then their second thought is, I wonder if this will help me get bitches.
Every accomplishment by men in human history was to impress women. I'm sure Thomas Edison invented the light bulb and they were like, Edison, this is going to change the world. And he was thinking like, and wait till these hoes see it.
And so I cut this picture out of a larger picture, and it's Venus manifesting herself in a transcendent space in the sky, and she has rays coming off her, and there's all these men who are knights kneeling in front of the image. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that men use the image of female perfection to motivate themselves. And that's exactly right. That's precisely what they do. You see that in the Tom Sawyer story. So Tom Sawyer is about 12 years old, and he's still hanging around with his friends like Huck Finn. And this girl moves across the street, Becky, and she comes out, and he's struck by her for the first time in his life. Something's changed. And the first thing he does is hop up on a picket fence and show off and balance in front of her. And he's saying, well, look at me, look at me. He's like the male bowerbird building something beautiful so the female will approve of it. And it's motivation, at least to the degree that males are uncorrupted and not bitter because of being rejected. They're doing everything they can to kneel before the eternal image of the feminine and try to make themselves worthy.
I remember first contemplating this idea of this kind of like reptilian brain ticker of like, how fuckable am I, etc. I was listening to a podcast with Mark Manson, and I remember him mentioning on this podcast that essentially, until he either met or married his wife, he also had that kind of like reptilian ticker in the back of his mind, this kind of like hyper-awareness of like, how fuckable am I, how fuckable am I? I don't know to what extent men think about this relative to other men, or how much women think about it relative to men. How much of what men do is actually with the kind of superordinate goal of increasing their probability of sex and their desirability as a partner, as a short-term thing, you know? Hamza, for instance, will flat out tell you that the reason that he exercises is to attract women.
I wanted to build muscle in the exact places that would make me more attractive, specifically in terms of dating more girls.
Muscle mommy, on the other hand, will do it for the purity, just for the love of the game, you know? I, conversely, will learn to play Deftones on a guitar to get a Deftones girlfriend, whereas the pool kids guitarist will play guitar better than me, sing at the same time, and do it just for the love of the game.
He was making the point, basically, that you could make the argument that when women learn a skill or do an art form, it's for the pure joy of it. As in, he made the point that a lot of men, what they strive for or achieve things for is to get laid or to get the attention of women. Now, women don't really do this because women don't really need to do that in order to get men's attention. So he's making the point that in a way you could say that when women learn a skill or do an art form, it's for the pure joy of it, in a way, because they pretty much always have access to sex. So yeah, I was just thinking about that, because it makes sense that women would be the subject. Obviously, I knew this anyway, but I just liked, it was just interesting, that concept that he was talking about. I don't know if that's kind of relevant to this video, but yes, it makes sense that women would be the subject of much of art if women are the motivating factor of much of art. And I was thinking a lot about the question of why there are far less female artists than male ones. And I actually think you could make the argument that yes, the art world is deeply misogynistic, even now, but not in the way you'd necessarily think. I don't know, and I'm undecided on let me know what you guys think. Because listen, look, women have always been creative and talented and capable of creating masterpieces. I mean, there have been more female artists in recent years, but obviously there wasn't a sudden genetic mutation over the last century or so that led to a sudden explosion of far more female fine artists. But in the past, women were far more restricted by first their biology and second by society. So women were very much tied to the family and their role as mothers, literally restricted by their biology in that way. And then economically restricted, so you have to get often, not always, but often have to get married for economic reasons or for what is expected or whatever. And then when you do that, then you're biologically restricted, because with no reliable birth control and an expectation, like I said, in marriage, how are you supposed to have time to go off and learn the skills to create masterpieces with children running around your ankles that need to be taken care of? And even if it wasn't for that, what opportunities were there for women to become apprentices and learn? Some women snuck through the cracks, sure, but female artists at the professional level were uncommon. They're immensely privileged women who were able to do that. But women have always been artistic. It's not like that hasn't been a thing. And I think what's interesting, because I was thinking about this, I think women have just had to be artistic in other ways, in ways that were more useful. And often their work, women's creative work, like textiles, that's a lot of the, traditionally weaving, sewing, but all these kind of things that is originally feminine crafts and still now seen as feminine crafts are kind of like sneered at and looked down on a lot by the art world. They don't really fall into the category of fine art because it wasn't art for art's sake, or it's, like, I just find that interesting that contrary to the fundamental beliefs of the red pill about women being useless, women's art actually had to be useful. They had to bring creativity into household tasks, textiles, like I said, sewing, even things like flower arranging or interiors, like all these things. It was like a lot of it was like all cooking, baking, whatever it was. It's not like women aren't creative or have never been creative, but it's like they can't go off to art school and learn they can't. So, and then I don't know whether should the art world consider other things as, take them more seriously? Should it not? Is it, I don't know. But I just think that's an interesting kind of thought that yes, women have been pushed out of the art world, but also traditional forms of women's like artwork are just not, or creativity are just not really appreciated or seen as like, because it's like craft, or it's like silly little housewives or domestic and running around doing their silly little whatever, I don't know, and like clothing, fashion, that kind of thing. And I feel like I don't know if I know enough about the history of the fashion industry, but I feel like, how accurate would it be to say that it was only really when men got involved in the fashion houses that it was taken seriously and not seen as frivolous female things like fashion? And I don't know. And then, by the way, this often extends out as well to working class men who also had neither the opportunities nor time to be an artist, so expressed creativity in other ways. However, they did still have more opportunities than women in that same position. If they were especially talented or whatever, or didn't want to get married or didn't have whatever, could go off and work, or I don't know, but that's just the thought I had. Is it just looking down the women's place in the art world was the kind of the thought here? And what is women's place in the art world? I mean, women are creative, sure, maybe not as many female fine artists, but is it because other forms of art not taken as seriously? And is it just because they're other forms of art, or is it because it's women? And that's not to say that women aren't capable of fine art or shouldn't have a place there, but just a thought.
That's what beauty does to you. It's like that's why you're intimidated by a beautiful woman, a staggeringly beautiful woman. It's like, oh my God, attracted for sure, but definitely intimidated. It's like, well, that's because you aren't who you could be. Beauty does that to you.
Because I'm not who I could be?
Yeah, well, because beauty has that contrast. It's like...
wow, if they're that beautiful, then suddenly look what I am. Look who I am. Oh.
Yeah. That's when you need a drink.
So Waterhouse painted a lot of femme fatales. So what? Lots of artists have constant themes they come back to again and again. My YouTube channel has recurring themes. And you know what? I think even reducing his work down to femme fatales is a really shallow and impoverished interpretation of the themes he was portraying. Waterhouse was interested in romance and myth and fairy tales. It's the lure of the beyond, of the transcendent, of longing for magic or some ethereal, out-of-reach other world. An easy way to express that is through femininity, but women are not the only part of his artworks to exude magnetism and longing and beauty. Everything does. It's like he wants to lure you away to a different world. I find those who enjoy this kind of artwork are also poetic, romantic people drawn in by the myth of fairy, or such things. Of the idea and concept of enchantment, of longing, of being lured away. That's the consistent theme in his artworks, I think, more than femme fatales and oh look, it's a pretty woman. Like really, I think like enchanting women are just a really effective way to get that feeling across. Because women are enchanting and beautiful. And by the way, in many cultures and beliefs and myths, women represent the link between this world and the other world. Like, oracles and psychics and the unknown has always been the realm of women. Even today, people still talk about women's intuition. And perhaps this is because women have been seen as quite literally bridging the gap between bringing a soul into this world from somewhere else. Through the birth process, in case you didn't get what I was talking about. Some of you are slow. 1 foot in this world, 1 foot in fairyland. I think that's what Waterhouse was entranced by more than a pretty face. Something like other, transcendent. And frankly, I think it's so unjust to portray him just as a lecherous creep. So here we have another post-it note. Ever since I was introduced to the pre-Raphaelites, John William Waterhouse has been a favourite of mine. Having lost my husband 4 years ago to brain cancer, I found solace in 3 of his works. One of them was Hylas and the Nymphs. Waterhouse's paintings not only express an incredible artistic temperament, but he is a master at emotional storytelling within an ethereal world. For years I've been thinking how much I would love to see Hylas and the Nymphs at least once in my lifetime. Well, I finally got the opportunity, only to be told the painting was removed as some part of feminist installation relating to the representation of the female body. I cannot express how devastated I am, not only to miss out on seeing the painting, but to be told that it may never be exhibited again. Well, at least it wasn't a straight, old white man that told you couldn't look at it, so that should make you feel better. But yeah, I think, to go back to that idea of the transcendent, I want to read this comment I got on my last video, because I thought it was interesting. And it kind of relates to what we're talking about. So this comment, I really, really appreciated getting. It made me a little bit emotional, just because some of the things this guy said. So, Jeebus said this. This was my last video about women's fiction and the bad boy. Doesn't that look like a scandalous thumbnail? Do you want to go watch it? So, the comment is, for those who are criticising Gal's focus on red pillars, Gal is me. For those who are criticising Gal's focus on red pillars and the intersection with the bad boy trope, I for one have found her video essays on those topics to be the main draw of this channel. I loved what she had to say about traditional masculinity from the perspective of a Northern English girl with a somewhat traditional family, and for me it spurred a deeper investigation about my feelings about femininity. I found that despite not agreeing with red pillars, I did hold an inherent bias that femininity lacked power, and yet desired feminine women, which is to say, on some level, I was unaware that I didn't fully respect the women I desired. I started going out of my way to hear the arguments of more feminist commentators, some of which I find repulsive, others of which I have a very easy time agreeing with, but ultimately I ended up having this moment where I was in an art exhibit that was dedicated to Western art, and I saw this painting of an agrarian era woman sowing seeds in an open field, and a light bulb went off in my head of when Galatea was talking about how the history of women is kind of framed in that 1950s viewpoint that it's only men who work, and that in reality women have always worked extremely hard, not just when men were at war in World War II, but throughout all of history. Interesting, the painting of the birth of Venus was also on display at this exhibit, and it also struck me. It's not that I was deeply misogynist before this moment, but that where previously I wasn't entirely interested in femininity and figured it was just a girl thing, this awakened in me an awe and respect for femininity that I was missing, and I seemed to finally understand the concept of the animus. Femininity is divine. It's a spiritual force that represents our wildest, most idyllic aspirations as human beings, that through our cooperation and nurturing of other human beings and of this world, we can become like gods. It's the framing that it isn't conquering the world and bending it to our will that we will overcome our struggle for survival, but that ultimately harmony with nature and with each other is the life-giving force that brings out the best in everything. Therefore, I now see the essential role of masculinity as one that drives out the wild and builds a village so that femininity, and therefore women, can thrive. Because what women can do with a stable environment is beautiful. It's the essence of beauty itself. I really liked reading that. I found that really moving, especially because of what was said about not being fully aware, desiring women, and yet not being fully aware that you did not respect that which you desired. And that was my point in my last video, the video that was commented on with a lot of things I was talking about, was that, yeah, you can there's quite a strong, like, energy of that in a lot of places. And I think there is that. That's kind of what I want to emphasize. This, like, the appreciation of beauty, and not a shallow thing, but of creativity or growth or nature or abundance. And again, so interestingly, what was said in that comment about, as was said, not fully respecting what you desired. And again, this guy was never like this. This is just, it made me think of, like, you see that contradiction, obviously far more extreme, in the men who like humiliate women on podcasts, like the Whatever podcast or Fresh and Fit, for being like disgusting sluts, ugly, mid, arrogant, caked in makeup. And those same men who will like hurl insults at those girls all night, and it's just a humiliation ritual, then go on and subscribe to the OnlyFans of those very same girls that they've enjoyed humiliating, calling ugly, and whatever else it is. So this is my problem. The women you desire, you despise for becoming what you desire, and the women you respect, you do not desire.
You mentioned something about girls lying or whatever. Can they actually really be honest, though? Everything about females is a lie. Makeup, heels, waist trainers, dresses to make themselves look slimmer, hair extensions, eyelashes, nails. Everything about them is a lie.
And that's not everyone, but some people. And I feel like it's probably not particularly healthy for men, the men who feel that way, because what does it eventually say about you, or how does it make you feel about yourself? Would it make you not respect yourself if you know that what you desire you don't respect? Does that not make you feel a little bit gross as well? Or lesser than? I can't imagine it particularly healthy for anyone involved. And I remember this point, I can no longer remember, it was in some long video, I think it was a live stream, but Brittany Venti made a point a while ago in a video, and where I think it was at the end, where she was talking about how men will bitch about how, not all men, but like specifically a subsection of part of the internet will bitch about how, you know, a beautiful woman brings nothing to the table, and how they really don't see the value in the feminine presence of a woman. And, you know, it's kind of the thing of, I'm the one with the real value because I have money and all you have is your face, love, you know, that kind of thing. Yet at the same time as that, well, I bring loads to the table because, like I said, I've got the money, the achievements, all you are is pretty. But at the very same time, they'll say they don't care about a woman's achievements, and they do in fact value beauty. So you can't have it both ways. Either beauty is really valuable, or her energy, or who she is really valuable, and that's all that you're going to judge her on, or it's not, and she needs to then bring something else. But you can't really ask for something and then degrade it at the same time. Well, you can, but I just think it's illogical, irrational, you like those words, don't you, and unfair.
Also, from a channel called Alpha Male Strategies, the thumbnail suggests that you should dump her today, king. And then you also have statements such as, women bring no value, as well as how to attract more women. So, you know, which one is it going to be? Why are you fundamentally trying to attract things that supposedly have no value? That seems a bit redundant. That seems like a bit of a contradiction. No?
Yeah, you can't say femininity has no value and kind of have this attitude that it's, you know, frivolous and stupid and vain. Like, you know, silly women spending time making themselves beautiful, or making an area beautiful, or a house beautiful, or thinking their feminine presence is enough. Yet that's what you're rewarding. So clearly there's value in beauty. women didn't decide that beauty is worth as much as what you bring to the table. Men did.
But anyway, what I was saying about the TikTok where she was like, I want McDonald's, when the guy was like, what do you bring to the table? And she was like, I'm hot. Also, I want McDonald's. That reminded me of like him replying to her, well, that's all you bring? Any girl could bring that. And it's like, but that's not true though. Because if that were true, like these guys wouldn't be so horny for like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 women. Clearly it is very valuable to be pretty. And she's not wrong by saying, oh, you bring that to the table. Because if you took that from the table, if you took away the sex, you took away her being hot, they would no longer want her. So why would it be an incorrect response to say, like, I bring beauty to the table, I bring femininity to the table? Like, how would that be wrong? So, because you take it away, now they don't want them, right? So it's clearly worth something if it's a deal breaker. And also him saying, like, oh, any woman could do that. It's like, but if that's not even true, because men gloss over ugly women all the time. They just don't notice them. They just don't give them attention. Like, beauty takes effort, even if you're naturally beautiful, especially if you're on camera, because camera doesn't translate to real life. So, like, to say, oh, any woman could do that's not true. There's a reason men regard some women as hotter than others and are willing to do more to get them. There's a reason hot women date rich men. It's because the rich men want the hot women, because women, by existing around them, bring the men status. You literally existing brings them status. That's what femininity is. It's not a physical thing you're bringing to the table. It's being. So her existing around you makes you look good. Everyone's like, whoa, damn. Like, that's what men like. That's why they want the hot woman. Also because sexual attraction too, intimacy-wise. But they want that. They want the status of having that beautiful supermodel-esque woman. And that's why a lot of rich men go for that. Like, clearly beauty does have a value, and it does get you men who make more money in general. That's kind of how it works. Yeah, trophy wife is a term for a reason. Women can bring other things too, obviously, but first and foremost, I'm speaking about things that are more exclusive to women, like, because it tends to be that women are the ones being trophied around, right, for their beauty. So it's not that their intelligence can contribute, or like other things that are more tangible, but beauty is clearly a big one. It clearly does matter a lot, and that's all the men say that they want. It's all they talk about online in these circles. But you either get it or you don't. If you don't get it, you're probably just not attracted to feminine women. It's really that simple. Like, you wouldn't ask what a woman brings to the table. You would know, and that's why you would be asking her out in the first place. It's just stupid. Anyway, femininity is about being, not doing. It's about an energy. So you either get it or you don't. You either get it or you don't see the value in women, and you're probably gay. So have a good night, everyone.
But it's about more than beauty. My point is, I think it's a very, very shallow, empty man who only values physical beauty. It really is. Everyone should stay away from them. But feminine energy, that's the deeper version of that. Of this, yeah, men value that. And that was Brittany Venti's point. She was making the point that they can say that it's worthless, and that, but they clearly value it because they're looking for that and they're rewarding that. And not all of them get that. And if there's competition for that, then you can say it's not worth anything, but that's not what is demonstrated. So, and again, I'm not just saying physical beauty. I feel like I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, and like I said, I have no, this is where I'm getting to the end of the script, but I really was I had some kind of point there, but it was just interesting what she was saying about, she was talking about feminine energy and the fact that it's elusive and hard to describe, and you can say it's useless, yet you've decided that has far more value than perhaps a more useful but masculine woman. And it's particularly these men who will look down on femininity, decide it has so much value, more than like being useful, if that makes sense. That's the point I'm trying to make. So it's them who are attracted to really feminine women, and yeah, does that make sense? But of course there are plenty of men who are attracted to less feminine women, more masculine women, and that's completely fine. I'm not saying that those women should be any different. And I just think there is this degrading of femininity, or the same with making like a home beautiful, or it's weird because what they ask for they also say is useless. So they'll want trad wives, but also they don't respect what like someone making a home pretty. It's like, that's a silly woman, that's like useless. But it's not frivolous, actually, to be in a space that feels good to be in. First of all, really not. And again, they know this because that's what they demand from trad wives. She looks good, takes care of herself, takes care of the home, keeps things feeling lovely. So I think I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I'm saying that because I'm annoyed that they ask for this above all else, but at the same time also turn around and sneer at women for only, although I don't think it is that, but providing those things, or for being frivolous, and for femininity being frivolous. But also, you know what that will do, funnily enough, because these are also the men who want women to become more feminine or whatever, however they view that as. What that will do is push most of the women with self-respect away from femininity. Because, and I'll let you in on a little secret, women are people, and people generally really want to feel valued and prove their worth and be respected and feel like they are having a positive impact on the world. So the more you degrade femininity, the more women will want nothing to do with it. And I don't blame them for that one bit. I think there's huge value in a love of beauty. And again, as I've said so many times before, femininity does not solely apply to women, nor does masculinity solely apply to men. I think it's healthy for people to have both traits to some extent. But I dislike this looking down on beauty as meaningless or useless or shallow, because it's not. You know, that's my real thing. There's so much meaning, actually, and like depth in it, but it's when it's like shallow or frivolous, and I don't think it is at all. And I know one argument some might use against my point that women actually do like to be pursued for beauty in some ways, is that this is just because of the patriarchy, and because, you know, that's what men want, and that's the only reason that women have been conditioned. They've just been conditioned to want to be seen as beautiful. They don't actually genuinely want. It's not an authentic desire. It's a cultural desire. There might be some truth to that, but I don't think that adequately really explains it. Women value beauty even when men aren't around. It's why sometimes women really do dress nicely just for themselves or for the girls. And I know that's become like a whole thing online where men never believe that, and it's like, of course you dress nicely for men. Of course you want to be like, it's a whole debate. But like, there's truth to it. There is an element of truth to it. Of course, women also dress nicely for men. Like, of course, I'm not denying that either. But it's fun. It's creative. Do you know how meditative and artistic putting on makeup can be? You know, we really enjoy the actual process of doing that. The creation process itself of doing that brings us joy. It's not solely about the final result. So many girls will say their favourite part of a night out is getting ready with other girls, putting outfits together, making something look appealing. Colours and glitter are flying everywhere. It's great fun. Like, maybe it's our modern version of weaving a tapestry together. I don't know. But and sometimes girls really do just wear glitter for other girls. Because it's creative. It's not, there is something fun in that. So I went to an all-female event last summer. The women all dressed up. They wore bright colours and revelled in, you know, looking beautiful and the creation of beauty. They wore glitter and jewellery and just enjoyed being around beautiful things. Yes, it lacked the sexual edge you might emphasise more if you were dressing up with men in mind. I'm not going to deny that there's a difference. But the love of beauty, and also still of sensuality actually, was still very much there. It was like being in a flock of butterflies. Like, the pursuit of beauty is not one-sided. It's not. Women are not passive receivers of male attention, and I find the implication a little insulting. I think women like to create beauty and be valued for that, and draw people in with that, and not just with the beauty and how they make themselves look, but the world around them, I think. Again, that's a massive generalisation, but there's truth to that. And again, that's femininity, and of course men can be like that too, and many different variations of many different people, yes. But yeah, frankly, I'm quite sick of the constant messaging that women should feel ashamed for wanting to be seen as attractive, or men should be shamed for finding women attractive, or that beauty is frivolous. It absolutely isn't. Life actually is not worth living without beauty. And I'm not just talking the physical beauty of women, but the beauty of nature and buildings and art and the sky and pretty things and music. Beauty is important.
We don't read and write poetry because it's cute. We read and write poetry because we are members of the human race. And the human race is filled with passion. Medicine, law, business, engineering, these are noble pursuits and necessary to sustain life. But poetry, beauty, romance, love, these are what we stay alive for.
I think I've said this in a video before, but beauty is life. It's life enjoying itself. And again, I'll make the distinction between that and the Kardashian-style filtered shallowness, which is not at all what I mean. There's a difference between appreciation for beauty and the joy of beautiful things and total self-obsession and vanity. But that's probably a video for another time. But I think the thing as well, with like pursuing a woman, I think women like to be seen as beautiful because and it depends who and how and the context, and there's lots of nuances to this, but in certain aspects as well, it's being desired and it's been seen as beautiful, but also I think it can be more deep than that and not as shallow as, like, in some senses, a man is admiring her creative spirit. Like, it takes a good eye and skill to style yourself, or to colours or makeup, or like, there can be sometimes something there that's deeper than the surface level of just beauty. I genuinely think sometimes there's an admiration of creativity there, or of the creation of beauty, or something. And also, women love romanticising themselves. This is the other thing. So I think this makes this feminist message even more confusing. Women like being seen as art. Just look at what I've done for this video. No, but, like, there's this whole, your literal art, your art. Like, I've seen that comment a lot on the internet, women to women. Or, like, have you seen those things where women, and it's always girls, will be like, this is my aesthetic. And then it'll be like a grid of beautiful images. So it'll be like, I don't know, so it'll be like maybe like a type of weather, a type of flower, a type of building, a type of crystal, and then all these things. It's like a grid of, like, I don't know how many pictures that, like, creates like a mood board of, like, this is me, this isn't who I am. So it's like, like a rainstorm, and then a white rose, and then a crumbling castle, and then a rose quartz crystal, and then, like, and it's all like me, hashtag so me. Actually, amethyst would probably get better with the rainstorm, but anyway, whatever. Okay, so girls do it with videos as well. I've seen, like, a lot of these videos going around where it's the same concept, where instead of, like, a picture grid of things, it's these videos. But you, like, see what I mean with the romanticizing of yourself. Like, it's these images or these, like, beautiful things, but they represent you, but it's not physical you, even though these are physically beautiful things, but it says something more than that. It goes beyond that. But there's a lot of this where this creating your own aesthetic, or, like, but it's supposed to say more about you than just aesthetics. It speaks to something deeper than that. But this is very popular, videos like this and pictures like this. It's the self-romanticization I'm talking about. So this really demonstrates even more what I'm talking about. This, rather than a girl just self-romanticizing herself, this is a whole TikTok compilation of them getting their boyfriends to do it. This is kind of what I'm going back to, as in the self-romanticization. To the point where, you see, but then they're getting, it's very tied with romance, but with getting their boyfriends to do that, like, if I was a flower, what flower would I be? And if I was a weather, if I was a city, if I was a flavour, what? So it's really intangible, even though it's very aesthetic and very beautiful. This is all about this is the kind of idea I'm getting at. This is all about a celebration of beauty, but it's not just, I think it's a misunderstanding of femininity and of women when you assume it's just the physical beauty that they want to be appreciated for. I think that's kind of a shallow interpretation. There's something deeper than that, and we need to think about that more. There's definitely something more intangible and that goes beyond, that is represented by beauty, but is a far deeper sort of beauty than just physical appearance. But it's clear, very tied up in. But this is what I mean. There's really a thing about self-romanticizing, wanting to romanticize yourself. And with them, the fact they've gotten their boyfriends to do it as well. It's like, we see, this is, that they kind of want to, it's like, what's my personality? What I, like, in all these aesthetics. And I think it's very fascinating. I'll let it play for a little bit more, because you can see the different, clearly they want, like, their different personalities. They kind of want to get that across in, like, through aesthetics, but it's beyond the aesthetic. I just find this whole trend, because this was a huge trend, I find this really fascinating, not just in a shallow way. I know people take piss out, like, TikTok trends, but I think this says something really, like, weirdly profound, actually. The fact that this whole trend was a thing and really blew up. So it's not just people doing it to themselves, like, if I was a colour, I'd be this vibe, but this is them getting their boyfriends to do it. So yeah, maybe watch these kind of trends if you want some sort of romance tips, so she feels really, like, seen and understood. Or there's something in this. I mean, it's quite cheesy. It is cheesy, but there's something here. But that's romanticizing yourself. But it's romanticizing your energy, or, like, romanticizing there's something it's romantic, but it's, like, not just about your, like, it's beautiful, but it's not like, it's like, oh, look at me and my energy, my soul, look how beautiful I am. And I think that is the thing that women are sensing in Waterhouse's artworks and pre-Raphaelite art. Like, yes, the women themselves in the images are beautiful, but it's about more than that. It's like the fact that they're surrounded by flowers, or, like, what they represent, or, like, they seem gentle or passionate or something. Like, there's an energy, and I think that's the thing. Because And that's why I disagree that these images are just like objectifying passive images of women, because there's all the difference in the world between that. Like we see more in it than just a nude woman, because there is more in it than just a nude woman, is my point. Women aren't putting grids up of pornographic images and being like, oh my god, so me. This is so me. Like, imagine if they do, like, all the aesthetic stuff they do. They're not doing that with pornography. They're not going, this, so me, babe. Like, this shot right here, I feel like it re-expresses, like, so me. I want people to think, when they see it, I want them to think of me. That's not happening. Which is my point, that I think that something about artwork like this that relates more to that romantic, transcendent other beyond the physical thing, then, like, we don't see it as, oh, it's nude, therefore pornography and sexual, like, that. I don't think that is, yeah, like, sensuality, yes, but that's different. But also, I think this is a whole thing about women and, like, female sexuality and what, because actually those grids of images, in a way, they are very sensual, like, they're very sense-based, like rainstorms and soil and whatever the hell else. But I think that says more about how there's something in that. God, women are complicated, aren't they? Weird. What does that mean, girls? What does that mean about how we perceive sensuality? Or, yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I just don't like the degradation of beauty. So I was in the Tate Modern a few weeks ago, and the main thing I said was that the most offensive thing about most of the art in there isn't that it's, generally speaking, ugly, uninspiring, unoriginal, though yes, it's often all of those things. And I just say that, I said those words. But the main problem with it, that conclusion I realised as I was walking around that I came to, is it's just actually just really, 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 really boring. It's so boring. You have all these artists pouting and posturing about how the plebby general public just doesn't understand their genius or is offended by how bold and brave they are. And honestly, that's giving yourselves way too much credit. At least, look, I've actually come across lots of contemporary artists that I like. I'm not slandering them all. But at least what I saw that was on display in the Tate Modern, dead. You're just so boring, like, does nothing for me. It's not challenging. Or it's not challenging or skillful or extraordinary or, I don't know, or avant-garde or spectacular or complex and deep and makes me face my own beliefs or societal norms. Like, I was just bored. I feel like that's the worst thing that could have happened. I think my problem with that kind of stuff is it has to be so highly intellectualized in order to have meaning. It can't exist without the sheet of waffle that goes along with it. In a lot of cases. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And sure, maybe it's hypocritical of me because there's that kind of art that I don't particularly like. But I just feel like people sometimes look down on more decorative art and see it as, like, meaningless or... But I don't think so. I think it's like, it's transcendent. And I didn't get that walking around the Tate Modern. I was just like, where's the ability to transport me to somewhere else? Where does it engage my mind and my soul? It didn't. You have to over-intellectualize it for it to do anything for you. Immediately disconnecting with the heart and going straight to logic. And I think art should be more than that, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. That's great, because we can all have different opinions. And you know what? It's not even the wanky modern art meanings that I have a problem with. It's that the art that is often created doesn't adequately express those meanings. I can analyse the Waterhouse image with zero knowledge of the artist or artwork and tell you all manner of things about it. But some stuff, I could bullshit and make things up, but it would be a lie. I did a lot of that in art school, but it would just be me lying about what, because I wouldn't really get that. I just think it's bad visual communication. I don't think it... But anyway, that's just a rant for another time. And I'll finish on this quote from Long Articles I thought was really beautiful. What exactly does Hylas and the Nymphs depict, and what do Waterhouse's women represent? The dealer in Victorian art and author Christopher Wood described how Waterhouse chooses a moment of female agency in this painting, the moment being the one in which the water nymphs encircle the young boy and decide they will seduce and then drown him. Unlike traditional Victorian depictions of women as subservient, physically weak, and lacking control of their own destiny, these nymphs are very much in charge of this situation, and Hylas is the one that is caught in the spider web of their making. The subtle eroticism in Hylas and the Nymphs inspired Waterhouse to paint a series of depictions of female water deities, including, it says, the mermaid and a few others. Rather than subjugating women or casting them as dangerous and untrustworthy, these pictures are enigmatic, and we are unsure what the intentions of these women are. In The Siren, the pale maiden looking down at the drowning sailor has an expression of curiosity rather than murderous appetite, and it is just as likely that she may at any moment hold out her hand to help him from the surging torrents as push him under to a watery grave. In the introduction to the catalogue, Waterhouse's modern-day biographer summarised what it is that makes Waterhouse's paintings so popular. Quote, coursing through the pictures across 5 decades are Waterhouse's fascination with melancholy, magic, and the thrilling dangers of love and beauty. They are lyrical in the truest sense of the word, imbued with the same hypnotic power possessed by the ancient poets who sang their stories. This was also a man particularly enthralled with female beauty and the power of women over men, over nature, over each other, no matter how sturdy or fragile they might appear physically. And thank you for this. I adore that last part about the powerful women, no matter how fragile they look. They might look fragile, but they're powerful. They hold the gaze of everyone in that painting, from the man to the viewer of the painting. There's a different kind of power there that's not, and this goes back to what I said in my last video, that's not just represented through physical strength. And to say that it's a power that comes solely from their beauty, I think is just shallow. There's intelligence and understanding in their eyes. They're enigmatic women, and like we said earlier about the siren seeming curious, you don't know how she's going to act. She doesn't look murderous, and I think that this like the uncertainty of men not really understanding women, which I think that seems to be a key part of romance. It reminds me of that Mumford and Sons song, Woman, which I actually really like. I think it's very well written.
So I actually am going to talk in a little more depth about this song, Woman, by Mumford & Sons, because it's a modern example, and also I think this song expresses so fantastically through words the very same sentiment that Waterhouse's painting is trying to express, or at least I believe so. And it's something that's still immensely popular now, and timeless, this feeling, I think. Woman, caught behind those burning eyes, tangled up in morning white, do you ever really know? Can you ever really know? Which, firstly, I'll try not to get too much into the lyrics of it and analysing that, but I think it's just really well written, because immediately it's so vague, the tangled up in morning white, but you know immediately what that brings a picture to your mind, you know immediately what they mean, without just very, very good writing, just subtle, without over-explaining anything. It's very skilled, very vivid, and brings like an image into your mind, but very without having to overuse language, like I'm doing now. So I won't go too much into that. But what's interesting in this song, again and again, there's the do you ever really know? Can you ever really know? Second verse, woman, watch her take me by surprise when she lets me call her mine. Do you ever really know? Can you ever really know? And then the repeated chorus throughout the song is, I can't read your mind, though I'm trying all the time. There's something I don't know, I can see it in your eyes. As the night descends, it's always slow again, but I am left in awe of the woman I adore. So, what's interesting, so if you see, like, it's not just that this song is romantic, like the painting is romantic, I think it's the same concepts I'm talking about. So there's adoration and awe, also mixed with this feeling that I was just talking about in the video, that she's beyond understanding, in a way, that there's something, that's repeated throughout it. And this sentiment and this like feeling of fear or whatever you want to label it as, I think it's still popular and always will be popular. That what these lyrics express, which is I think the same as the painting, and I still think women still like that then and they like that now, but there's that sense of reverence and also like expressing that she's unpredictable. You know what it is? It's a force of nature, really. That's how they represent women in both paintings like this and that song. Talking about her as if she is a force of nature, which I far prefer to small restrictive ideas of, women as silly, mindless, submissive and frivolous, because that is not and never has been what the feminine represents. But I think this is why, I think I'm getting closer to finding out some of the answer of why women love and resonate with these kinds of artworks, and what I was saying before about these paintings representing an energy of beauty and of femininity more than just the physical form, and why I think it's such a shallow interpretation to see pretty woman, therefore it just thinks women are passive and decorative, because I think what women are resonating with, because if you look at, and so much of Waterhouse's paintings are like this, these women are all in scenes of nature, like not all of them but a lot of them, especially the nymphs, like look at, like they have become, and like I read in that article that the article said was women's power over men, over nature, over themselves, but it is this equating, and that even came up in that comment I read, the person who commented on my last YouTube video, this equating women with nature. And I think that is the thing that women are resonating with in these paintings, of what it says about the feminine, of this unpredictable, of this creative force, of this growth, of this abundance, of creation of beauty, which that's what I'm trying to get at. It's not physical, shallow, oh look, I got fillers in my lips kind of beauty, which nothing against that. I'm just saying that's not what I'm talking about. It's something in these paintings that's more than that. And that's what I was talking about, was the connection with the aesthetic as well. In those images and pictures before, when women are going, here's my aesthetic, that's the same thing as that. It's that equating with natural forces, or with something intangible, or with the beyond, or something. And I really think that's the beauty that's in these, that is not just, and yeah, that plays a part, that they're very attractive, beautiful women, but it's more than that. And romance is more than that. And also admiring a woman for her beauty is more than just her beauty. And that's what I was trying to get at before. It's a very shallow man who just sees a pretty face, and that's all he sees. I think women, yes, want to be pursued for their beauty, but it's about more than just how they look. I mean, don't get me wrong, they want to be valued on that too. But also it's like, what is the energy behind it that is coming across? There is something there. And it's, yeah, this equating women with a force of nature, this natural, beautiful, and there's something in that. And I think that's what women see in these paintings. That's what they see. That's what I mean when I say these paintings are a representation of feminine power, and why it's so shallow to see that, I think, to see that and then say, oh, the only feminine power they're showing is sexuality. I don't get that at all, because all these other things I'm talking about, with like nature and creation, and there's beauty, there's power, there's influence, there's creation, there's intelligence, there's mystery, there's the lure of the beyond, there's the transcendent, there's that encapsulates all, and unpredictable and uncontrollable, by the way, which is very interesting, because that's how the feminine is represented in all of these again and again and again, is and that's the sentiment these men are expressing through the artworks or the songs, is she's unpredictable, she's uncontrollable, and yet that's why part of the allure of her.
Plus, it's impossible anyways. You try to get a woman to submit, like, good luck. It's just not possible.
Not for very long.
They're slippery.
Which is why I've always found it silly equating femininity with submission, because it's not at all. Being outwardly gentle or agreeable is not the same as submission. That's why these are the kinds of, and men of the past knew this too. It's not, and you see this, but that's part of the allure of the feminine, ironically, is the fact that, yeah, this natural, because you can't control the natural world, you can't, there's, yeah, and I think that's why women love this, and there's power in it. I mean, it reminds me, I'll go back to comparing, when I've in the past compared femininity to water, as in changeable, apparently soft and gentle, but unpredictable, and also can not be, and very powerful. But I think that this is what this expresses as well, is femininity in water, or the ocean, changeable and powerful and terrifying and unknowable, yet also gentle and beautiful. And this seems to be something that comes up again and again and again. So to finish this video, no, I disagree that this Waterhouse painting shows women as passive and decorative. I think it celebrates the complexity, power, beauty and mystery of the feminine, and expresses the mixed awe and fear of men who don't truly understand her but love her anyway. And to pretend that this is something women find offensive is ridiculous, when we all know that if poetry didn't work on women, men would never have started writing it in the first place.
Language was developed for one endeavor, and that is
To communicate.
no, to woo women.
If you would like to support the channel, please do go ahead, and you can join up to my Patreon. I'm starting a series on the Sandman. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, head on over. There's lots of other things over on Patreon. And I'm sorry if this was a little rushed and if I kept looking down. As I said, I'm incredibly sleep deprived, and I needed to film this quickly because I need to get it done this month, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to, and I needed it all done today. So, but it's okay. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Watch out for any of those cheeky nymphs that might try drown you. So stay cautious, stay aware, and look after yourselves.